Welcome back, everyone, to the Canadian Baseball Network podcast. The Jays are still alive, Jackson. I'm sure that's the delight of many across the country, but the job is far from finished.
Yeah, I mean, first off, Matt, just an unbelievable series against the New York Yankees for the Jays, beating them in 4 games. The gentleman's sweep, as I've seen being thrown around. Yeah, and what a it's really unbelievable for Jays fans. It's the first time these two teams ever played, and the Jays thoroughly outplayed them, Matt. I mean, from really the game 3 was the exception. The Jays had a very kind of uncharacteristic game. Bieber wasn't very good, and the defense behind him wasn't very good. But man, everything else was just coming up Jays. Like
Yeah,
that game, both games were on the weekend were just. It's what you dreamt of as a Jays fan for a long time.
yeah, and you mentioned gentlemanly sweep. I don't know how gentlemanly playing New York, and Kings of New York, Aaron
Oh
Judge's
yeah,
walkout song during the celebration is, but that's all part of the fun of sports. So, but yeah, they did what they've done all year long, which I thought would be tougher in the postseason, just given the number of eyes and everything be under the microscope, and how teams are managed this time of year. But they just keep rolling along, and if you're not a believer yet, I don't know what to tell you.
that's the thing. And I was wondering too about you think about how it wasn't just Vladdy who had such a great series as well. And we had talked about how Guerrero really needed to step up, and he did. And it makes you, yeah, for sure, as a fan, really believe, right? When your best players are playing like that. I mean, you couldn't draw up a better 4 games for Guerrero to start there. Really, you couldn't really draw up a better, like I said, the 2 games at Rogers Center, and then in Game 4 they played a really really clean game. You just couldn't draw it up better. And yeah, like a lot of you can certainly really build on this, absolutely. And now that you've gotten through the Yankees, not to say it's going to be easy the rest of the way, but you've just beat a quality team. You didn't beat an 80-win team. You didn't beat an 85-win team. This is a proper team that you had to go into Yankee Stadium and defeat after in Game 3 what was a really difficult performance and could have been a turning point. Like that's the other thing about talk about believing in the team and kind of maybe this team can go on a run. Games like what we saw in Game 4 really do give you that hope, because they got off the mat and said, no, we're not letting you bring this to 5. We're ending it right here, and made quieted a lot of people, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and I think it can be a turning point in the other direction. I think winning a World Series never comes easy. I mean, there's going to be adversity along the way, and that certainly was the first game in New York that could have gone sideways really quickly. They always say that the 2-game or 2-goal or two-run lead is the dangerous one in sports, and that's the reason why. I mean, you drop that Game 3, and then all of a sudden, Game 4 feels like a must-win, even though it really isn't. But you feel like your back's a little bit against the wall because you don't want to go back to Game 5 when you're up 2-0. But yeah, they just continue to chip away, and I was concerned about the bullpen game. I'll put my hand up and say I thought they were in some trouble after losing that Game 3. But again, they just did what they've done all year long, got contributions up and down the lineup. The entire bullpen, I think John Schneider managed it perfectly, or as close to perfect as you can get, and that's the result. So I mean, there's no reason to think that this team can't go to the World Series. I know we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves, and we're going to talk about the ALCS and potential opponents, but there's no reason to believe they can. Obviously, like you mentioned, they just beat a 94-win team. There's 2 good teams playing in the other ALDS, but I mean, you got to think they're the favorite going ahead.
Yeah, and look, you're only 4 wins away now from punching your ticket to the Fall Classic, which, if you told a Jays fan at the start of the year they'd be in that position, it's crazy. Especially, what a dream year, right? Vladdy got extended. You see the emergence of some players on this team, and you get a guy like Trey Yesavage come up. We could talk about that too, and what he did to the Yankees on Sunday. Just masterful, right? He carved them up. The splitter was obviously just electric and fooling all these hitters. 11 strikeouts, I think he had. That's like such a great story, right? Keegan Matheson, friend of the show, has talked about that on all his stuff he's been doing, which incredible coverage, by the way, by everyone covering the Jays and Sportsnet and stuff. But he's talked about what a development story, right? That Savage is going all the way through the minors, getting up here and pitching in a super meaningful game 2 of the ALDS, at home. We were talking about before the series about how we thought they might use him coming out of the bullpen or whatever. Well, now we know he is going to maybe He's certainly going to start another game, and he might also come out of the bullpen at some point. But he has quickly become, Matt, one of the most important arms for this team in the matter of like less than a month, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think back to spring training, and I was at the spring breakout game, and that was his first technical professional appearance. I mean, that was only 6 months ago, and now he's pitching, in front of 45,000 at Rogers Center in the biggest games of the year. So he's obviously, burst onto the scene, and he's going to start, I'm guessing, probably game 2 again, which would line him up to pitch later in the series too. So they obviously have that belief in him, and for good reason.
Yeah, and it's, because especially given you mentioned the bullpen game, how scary that was looking with Bassett's injury, and kind of we'll see where he's at come the ALCS. But
I
all
don't
of a
think they do
sudden,
that again. I don't think they do that again. I don't know if you do that again. I think Bassett should be on this, right? In a 7-game series, I think Bassett needs to be on this
for
roster.
sure.
He gets a start. I just think it's too taxing on the bullpen, especially if you're going to be so quick with a hook like you were with Shane Bieber. I mean, I probably would have left Bieber in. I mean, that's why you went and got this guy. Let's try to figure it out a little bit. It's not, a borderline starter. It's a bona fide ace. That's kind of one decision that I did disagree with. It worked out. So, I know, but I think Bassett has to be on this roster. Not to, I know we'll talk a little bit about the roster, but I think that's one, easy addition that can be made to kind of limit that amount of innings on the bullpen.
But yeah, I mean, like just having, because imagine where they would be if they didn't have Trey Yesavage, for example. They would have been, especially in that DS. But if you look ahead now to the ALCS, where you need even more pitching to cover a 7-game series, what a development that's been. But yeah, like you can't, also thinking about how they'll probably have to play, well, they will have to play 3 games in a row, very likely, games 3, 4, 5, on the road. And so that'll be, if you do a bullpen game, say in game 4, what are you going to do in game 5, right? That's pretty dicey. They made it work this past games 3 and 4, but yeah, you're right, Matt. It was taxing on the bullpen. And, I'll say this too, John Schneider did a great job. Also, like, his guys went out there and pitched really, really well. And look, they kept the Yankees did not play well either, aside from Aaron Judge. The lineup really didn't do a whole lot here. I have this stat. Like, the Judge had a 1273 on base plus slugging to the LDS. The rest of the Yankees were 616. So it really was, if you could either walk Judge or just, keep him to singles and basically just keep him in the park, which they almost wholly did, you'd be able to do okay. And so the manager looks great because the bullpen did a great job and there was some luck involved as well, right? So you're right, Matt. I also am a little nervous about doing a bullpen game as well. I think it would only really, really be if you absolutely had to. Now, maybe there's a situation where it's Bassett is pitching and you do like an opener, right, to kind of make things a little more unpredictable. That's a little different to cover innings that way. But either way, I mean, the way it worked out was exceptional, and big credit to those guys in the bullpen as well. And really just because that was a big concern in September, right? It was the bullpen, and how is this going to look especially early September? How is this bullpen going to look come October? And so far, Matt, it's looked pretty good. The main guys, at least.
Yeah, for sure. And last thing on the Yankees, I know we want to jump ahead to talk about the Tigers and Mariners who play Game 5 tonight, but was Buck Martinez right, or was Buck Martinez right? It's just not they don't play good baseball consistently. If they don't hit home runs, they're in a lot of trouble. And you kind of saw that a little bit. The defense has been sloppy all year. The pitching has been suspect. The bullpen wasn't very good for a lot of the year. They just seemed like they couldn't. And I know we're not a Yankee show, but they just seemed like they just couldn't put it all together, despite winning 94 games, which is a really strange thing to say, given they won 94 games and almost won the division. It just seemed like it wasn't a very complete team, and a team that just didn't play well consistently enough to put it together.
Yeah, I mean, it was I think it embodied the Yankees, that Game 4, like Chisholm with the error, right? That cost them a couple runs, ultimately put the game away. And, thinking about later in the game, a couple innings later, Judge hits that double, to add a run on, and that was kind of it, right? That pretty much embodied the Yankees series, right? And Jazz had the home run in Game 3. Look, they played well in Game 3, but that was the thing, Matt. When you live by the home run, you also die by it. Right? The Jays out-homered them in this series. They didn't hit enough home runs. Ryan McMahon had a home run. Chisholm had a home run. Judge, of course, the huge 3-run home run in Game 3. But, man, it was was quiet. Like Trent Grisham didn't have a good series. Cody Bellinger didn't have a good series. You're right. Volpe was awful. Ben Rice, not very good. So you factor that in along with the defensive miscues, and it really put the Jays certainly into the driver's seat, as it were. And Buck Martinez was very vindicated, wasn't he? I thought it was interesting that Aaron Boone came up here and challenged that kind of before the series started. You'd think that's one of those things maybe you'd wait on until after the series to kind of hang on the rim, as Michael Kay put it. So a lot of interesting nuggets there in the media for sure.
They play terrible at Rogers Center. I think they're like 1-9 at Rogers Center this year,
Yeah.
1-8. So I mean, it's obviously, home field advantage kind of can be overblown at times. I don't think it's necessarily as important as some people like to make it out to be, but there's probably something to that.
Sorry, Matt, you caught me there drinking coffee. I would imagine too that the crowd obviously was electric at Rogers Center, and I don't think that would factor in too much, but man, they, especially throughout the summer, they kicked it around a lot at Rogers Center, and it was a house of horrors for them this year, wasn't it? And you look at kind of their season in perspective as we wrap up on the Yankees. Like it's got to be super disappointing to lose to a team in Toronto who you've largely looked down upon for a long time, right? And kind of always like kind of the little brother, right? The Red Sox have always been the rival for the Yankees, and rightfully so. But this year, man, the Jays really turned a lot of stuff on its head. And yeah, they celebrated hard. You're right, Vladdy, like in the music and stuff, and they prayed hard. And look, by the way, that could come back to bite them depending on how things go here. It very well could, right? I was just talking about Aaron Boone doing a little bit of victory lap before the series. Job ain't done yet, right? Job's not done yet.
Cal Raleigh loves to hit at Rogers Center.
That's
don't
right.
Forget that. Speaking of which, Tigers Mariners tonight to decide who the Jays will play beginning on Sunday in the American League Championship Series. Tarik Skubal on the mound for the Tigers. It's hard to bet against that.
No kidding. And I was thinking about, well, who would I rather play if I was the Jays? I mean, you don't want to pick your poison too much. Look, both teams have great pitching. Tarik Skubal, I mean, I don't know how you beat. Is it possible to win a game twice against Tarik Skubal and the Tigers? Like, we'll see. We'll see what happens tonight. I think Seattle's scary. I think Seattle's scarier, to be honest, to play. Yeah. I think some of the demons as well from the past back in 2022. But Cal Raleigh, what he's done this year, it's exceptional, right? The 60 home runs, whatever he had, and the lineup is good. You got Naylor, you got Suarez. Like, there's a lot of guys who can hurt you in that lineup. And the pitching staff is really good too, right?
Polanco's playing really well. I think there's no doubt. I think from just the outside looking in that Detroit would be the more favorable matchup. I mean, obviously that doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but you combine that with the fact that Tarik Skubal is not going to be able to pitch in games 1 and 2 because he's starting tonight. So he starts game 3. I don't know exactly how the schedule looks beyond the first 2 games. I don't know if that's been released yet, but does he bounce back for game 7 maybe on short rest? He's probably not pitching games 3 or 4 because they're probably going to be back to back. So you may only see Skubal once, or once at full strength at least. Which is obviously very favorable. And the Tigers lineup just isn't as intimidating, I don't think, as the Mariners. And the pitching as a whole definitely isn't. I mean, I don't know where Brian Woo's at for Seattle. I know he's not in the American League Division Series. Will he be back? But you still got Gilbert. You still have Kirby. Who am I missing here? I'm missing somebody.
It's a good team over there. Bryce Miller as well.
Yes, Bryce Miller. Thank you. Who pitched well the other day, I believe. So the bullpen's good with Brash and Munoz in the back end. It's definitely more of a complete team, I think. But I would love to see Toronto and Seattle. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. I mean, the nice thing is either way you're gonna get kind of a very Canadiana type series, right? If it's Seattle, obviously yes. Plus Brash and Naylor as well. Matt Brash, a friend of the show, and the Tigers. I mean, hell, it'd be the battle for London. It'd be the battle for London, Ontario, man. 2 hours away from each.
Is this some home field advantage, regardless of like
you'd think,
these
right?
fans can travel, right? Like, I mean, I don't know how ticket sales play out on the road. But, I mean, Seattle's always very Toronto heavy. Detroit, obviously, you can't get much closer than that to Canada. It's gonna be interesting to see how those what that road fan split is.
Well, it just got a great chance to be a hell of a American League side for Canadian baseball, right? Like what Vladdy and the Jays just did against the Yankees. right? One of the premier brands in the sport. Vladdy being born in Montreal. And then potentially to go up, whether it's against Detroit or whether it's going up against Seattle with a couple Canadians on that team, it's got a lot of Canadian feel to it this postseason. And that's really cool. Really, really cool. Obviously for us on the Canadian Baseball Network podcast, but just in general, I think it's a nice change of pace, right? You got some fresh faces in this, some fresh teams. Like one of Detroit, Seattle, or Toronto is going to be in the World Series this year. How about that?
Yeah. And I mean, Detroit, I mean, that to rekindle some of that rivalry, I mean, that was a rivalry back in the day. I mean, it still is just based on proximity, but nothing spurs up a rivalry or reignites a rivalry like a good playoff series. So we've already kind of seen it with the Mariners, with that wild card series a few years back that ended in unfavorable fashion for Blue Jays fans. But it's gonna be interesting either way, and I'm looking forward to it. But there's definitely some questions here about the Blue Jays roster. We talked about Bassett a little bit. Is Bo Bichette back? That's going to be a big indicator of potential success. I saw Mike Wilner say earlier today he won't be playing shortstop, which I think is pretty obvious.
Yeah,
he seems like he's still kind of hobbling around. But can he DH? And how does that impact a guy like Anthony Santander or George Springer? So there's a lot of questions still for the Jays had to iron out over the next couple of days.
I was a little surprised when the Game 4 lineup came out and they put Santander right back in right field. I really thought they were going to give Springer in right field, especially having him DH in Game 3. I thought, well, why not? It's playoffs. You gotta do what you gotta do. I do wonder if I don't like to speculate on this stuff. I wonder if Springer's dealing with maybe a little something, and that's why they want to keep him fresh. He also hasn't been hitting all that well. He had the one home run on the weekend, but he didn't have a great series. Springer, he had the double, I guess, in Game 4. He was okay. I guess when you're comparing him to Vladdy, it's tricky. But overall, maybe you want to keep him at DH, but man, that limits you if Bichette can only DH. So all of a sudden, if Bichette is on the roster, well, who's getting left off? Is it Santander? Is it kind of Falefa? But if
I don't think Santander is getting left off the roster by any stretch. I think is he a bat off the bench at this point? You take Nathan Lucas out of the lineup. How do you do that?
No. No, and you can't take Jimenez off shortstop either.
You can't have Santander and Springer, I don't think, playing in the outfield together.
No. So that's the hard part is who do you take off the roster? I'm glad I don't have to make those decisions. That's where it gets to the thing where it's like, how healthy is he, right? Because if he still can't run all that well, it's like, are you shoehorning a guy in to leave someone off the roster who might be able to help you depending on the situation? Right.
Yeah, or even someone out of the lineup until late in the game. I mean, would you rather have Santander have 2 or 3 at bats at that point over Bichette? Right. I mean, that's kind of what the question has to be. We're going to find out shortly and over the next 48 hours. But it's going to be interesting. My gut says he's not going to be on the roster just from everything I've seen. And there was some video that Keegan posted of him running. Just didn't look good. I mean, it didn't. It didn't. Well, he looked fine. He was running, but it still didn't look. He didn't look healthy. It
doesn't sound good. What's going on? Like I don't like the messaging. I don't think he's coming back either. And based on the way the roster is constructed, like you said, I mean, they already have basically 2 DHs, right? And Santander and Springer. So
they got by
you're gonna add a third one to the mix?
Obviously, if he's healthy, he's gonna play. Like that's obvious. It's whether it's how healthy he is, how beneficial he's even gonna be. Is it worth disrupting some of this to see if you can sneak his bat in the lineup?
That's what it comes down to. Yeah.
I mean, I guess we'll find out. But we're kind of past the point, I think, of second guessing John Schneider at this point. There's really been no reason to, or this front office.
Yeah, no kidding.
Some of the decisions they've made. So I've disagreed with a couple of them along the way, even in the playoffs. But I shut up pretty quickly when they win the series.
Yeah, and I think that you're right. Like Schneider certainly answered a lot of critics, didn't he? Or silenced a lot of critics, I guess. The front office, a lot of very vindicated, I think, after that series. And you look at whoever it's going to be. It's going to be now a 7-game series, so you've got more opportunity to kind of like you are going to need more starters. You're going to need your bullpen. The interesting part for me is again how he continues to manage that bullpen. Now you're dealing with a 7-game series. You're going to have 3 games in a row at one point potentially, unless there's a sweep involved. So how do you go about that now? You look at how would you set up the rotation? I guess it'd be Gausman, Yesavage, Bieber, Bassett, something like that.
Yeah. And then you
kind of go from there.
Depending on who you play, like you can leave. I feel like you can leave like a Tommy Nance or a Justin Brule off the. I don't think you need 4 lefties in the pen against either of these teams. Thinking off the top of my head, but could be wrong. But I feel like those 2 guys, that's the roster spot you probably take.
It's going to be really, really exciting. This is awesome, right? They're 4 wins away from the World Series. They're 8 wins away from a title. It's you're going to get a Canadian kind of feel no matter who it is. This is as good as it gets, Matt. I mean, this is what you dream of. It's crazy to think that in spring training we were talking about, maybe the 500 team, maybe they'll sneak in as a wild card team. We'll see if they can extend Vladdy. They've done all that and much more. What a ride!
Well, shows how much we know.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of critics. Yeah.
We got to do predictions. We did it for the ALDS.
Yeah.
I was wrong. I said Yankees in 5. I think you took the Jays in 5.
I took Jays in 4. Yeah.
4. There you go. So you're smarter than me. So I think my answer to any sort of prediction, which is probably going to be wrong anyways, is dependent on who they play.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think if they play the Tigers, I think it's the Jays in 6. If they play the Mariners, I think it's the Mariners in 7.
Ooh, good one. Yeah, you're right, Matt. It depends who they play. I'll go with the same because you just never know in baseball, and I think each team has different strengths and weaknesses. I'll take the Jays in 6, man. I got the Jays in 6, man. Yeah, no matter who they play, I got the Jays in 6. I think they win it at home. Yeah, game 6 would be at home. Yeah. So I think that, I think Vladdy continues to do his thing. I do.
Yeah.
I know he hated the Yankees. I know that was a whole other thing, clearly. I think he continues to do well. I think you get some other contributions from some surprise guys too. Maybe Springer has a better series. We'll see what happens with Bichette if he's back. How about Ernie Clement and what he did this past series? If he can just keep laying the ball in the right field, getting on base, that can go a long way in the postseason. So I got the Jays in 6. It's going to be super exciting though, Matt. And we'll be back to recap it all here for you as the series goes on.
You're trying to go 2-0 in these predictions, and I guess we'll find out. Until then, take care.